There we are. You're looking good. Holy cow. I like your workspace.
Thank you.
It's pretty fancy. So this is kind of cool because I've been doing a lot of research on you. And
Oh,
unlike my other guests, you actually have a pretty good online
I built a brand. That's the thing. Like it's
you're building your brand. Yeah. So I was
yeah,
able to
yeah.
watch your videos. And I did notice, I'll tell you this, your videos from earlier on to where you are now, that new microphone, your voice sounds just like,
Really? Oh, perfect.
sounds heavenly. Yeah, it really does.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that because I didn't uh yeah, it's just one switch, I guess. I don't know, but I don't know if you noticed my setup is pretty much the same-ish in the background. I've just changed a few little things in the behind the scenes here that
Yeah.
makes I'm also looking at I don't know how it looks on the cam from your angle, but I'm also looking to I don't know. I'm surprised Logitech hasn't come out with a better camera yet, like
Yeah.
hardcore 4K, even better through COVID times. Like I think I thought at least one company would just come out of nowhere and
Yeah.
develop because the option is you hook up a DSLR and you have to get a cam link for that just to link it up to the HDMI to your computer.
Okay.
So you
Yeah.
need like three
Really?
different other things to make that work. Like I'm into plug and play. That's me, right? I plug and play.
Yeah.
Let's go. So
Yeah.
that's yeah,
I think the podcasting space, the YouTuber space is
yeah,
exploding, and you're right. I don't think the technology has kept up with it. You have little
yeah,
doohickeys like, say, your the lights and those kind of things they're always available. But
yeah.
you're right. I was looking for a camera. I took a camera home. I tried it. I was like, well, this is no better than my computer, so I might as well just return this stupid thing.
Exactly. Yeah,
But you're right.
exactly.
You see these guys with the really nice cameras. Well, they have those very expensive cameras. Like, well, I'm not going to do that. Not
You
for
know what?
this.
I had it. It was just too annoying to set it up every time.
Hmm.
I just sold it. I had all this stuff. I'm like, you know what? It's barely makes any difference compared to
Yeah.
what I had here. So I just
Yeah.
went to what was working. So right now I have a 1080p Logitech. It works good. You
Well
know, it
enough.
could be better,
Yeah.
but I wanted to try the Brio, the 4K camera. But I don't know. Maybe eventually we'll see.
Well, you got to protect your brand, though, right? So what's that
Yes,
worth?
that's right. That's right. Yeah,
But you got to keep the cost down. You're an
exactly.
entrepreneur, right? So
Absolutely.
that's your whole thing, right? You're always looking for those
Yeah,
little incremental improvements
that's right.
to build on things, and then incremental cost savings as well on the other side of things, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's the whole game, right, behind everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Well,
whenever
that's
you're ready to get going, man, let me know. Let's rock
well,
and roll.
I think we're going.
Oh, we're good. Okay. Awesome. Okay.
The
Awesome.
so I started this podcast a little while ago because I noticed I've been using Zoom to talk to friends of mine,
Yeah.
mostly from my past, like from a long time ago, right? So,
Yeah.
but I also wanted to have a chance to talk to some of my, colleagues and associates
Yeah.
and neighbors. In your case, one of my
Mhm.
neighbors, who I think are doing really cool and interesting things. And I was kind of doing this kind of stuff anyways. I was like, why don't I just record it,
Yeah.
put it
Absolutely.
online, and then all of a sudden have this nice little framework, and it makes it more disciplined to
Yeah.
do it like that. So
Yeah. That's right.
it's kind of nice. So I'll introduce to my guests or my viewers, such as they are. So you're Kendal Netmaker. You are a neighbor of mine. We live in the same neighborhood,
Yeah.
and our sons played hockey together.
Yeah. We
That's
had
how
a
I
lot of
know
good
you.
times. I would have to say that time was definitely one of the top, I would say, overall family coaching uh, experiences for Keanu, my son.
Yeah.
Every coach had unique strengths, and it made everyone feel good. And I'm not comparing teams over the years, but it just
Oh,
felt
you
there
can
was
do
more
that.
support in that. In that year, there was a lot of support, and it felt good.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key to uh, for youth is they need that support, feeling like they're supported along the way.
Well, he's a good kid. I really enjoyed having him on the team. He had a good attitude,
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Yeah,
the level they were playing at. We're not getting superstar players there,
yeah,
but really what you want is a kid that listen, has a good
yeah,
attitude, and is going to try the things you do. And even if they fail, it's like it doesn't matter. Are you trying to
exactly.
do the things you're going to do? Are you
Yep,
improving over the year? That's the metric. That's the bar.
Absolutely. Yeah.
he hit it out of the park in all three of those categories. So I was like,
Perfect.
and every time I see him around, but hey man, how you doing, Key? But I'm like, man, it'd be nice to have him on, my
Yeah.
team this year. But we're on
Yeah.
different teams this year. We
Yeah.
might play each other
Every
maybe. I
year
don't
it's
know.
always going different. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I really love coaching. I love being around those kids. Keep you young
Mm-hmm.
and kind of silly,
Yeah.
and but also like I really enjoy like boys need this. Well, kids need this, but need
Yeah.
that discipline too. Like they need to know what to do, right?
Yes.
And how to act. And
Yeah.
you need people to call them out on stuff, but also then
Yeah.
there's also space for fun within those
Yeah.
within that framework. And so that's kind of the way I approach it anyway. So and that
Yeah.
he was, like I said, he was great. He was a lot of fun. So
Yeah. I always tell people like, so I do, especially through COVID, been doing a ton of business coaching. So I've been coaching entrepreneurs, business owners to adapt and grow their businesses through this time. And a lot of them have had to change things and adapt to, they had no choice, right? And if you don't adapt, you're going down there this time. Like it's a really challenging time for a lot of people. And I tell people, first off, before we work together, it's like an athlete and a coach bond. The reason a lot of athletes, especially the ones that become world class, is that no matter how good they are always coachable. Same thing in business, same thing in any career that you decide to go through. You have to come from a place where you have to be coachable to people who are, who know what they're talking about, people who are leaders, people who have done things. That's who I love learning from. And the moment you start thinking you know it all, you're done. You're on the decline. So, whoever's watching this, try to remember that. That's a huge a lesson that I've really taken to heart. Growing up is I treat myself as a sponge. I learn from as many people as I possibly can, and I still do to this day. And it's always going to be until I'm my last day I'm meant to be here, whenever that is. And so you always have to be hungry for that knowledge, because you don't know what that one person that you're sitting beside, whether it be on the hockey bench or whatever, or in the stands, you don't know what they're going to share with you that might change your life.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Your coaching portfolio, the people that you work with, so you don't just work with entrepreneurs, you work with
leaders too.
Leaders in general, I suppose. Hey.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good. Like CEOs or any people like that. Like.
Really? We have a few CEOs. I guess how coaching came about was in a way I was always coaching. However, it was more to a group and through like seminars, trainings, and whatnot. So I never prior to COVID, I never had a lot of time to actually sit down or be on the phone, be on Zoom, one-on-one style.
Yeah.
It was once in a while, but it was rare. It was more like a one-off consulting fee or maybe I would work with them for a month and that would be it. But throughout this time, it changed my whole business model. I was busy on the road doing these speaking engagements all over the place, across the country.
Yeah, I remember
and when COVID hit, everything stopped, right? So I'm like, I got to evaluate what the future is here, right? Because the market took a long time to adapt like this online. It took months, like it did. And so we're just starting to see people wanting to do Zoom, wanting to do Microsoft Teams, wanting to do whatever other online video streaming platform they want to use. So we are getting the virtual keynotes that we've been looking for. It's coming like months later. During that time, I had to fill in the gap with consulting and business coaching. So it forced me to adapt, and I'm helping my clients adapt in whatever. They come from all different industries. I've had people in construction, people building e-commerce websites, other business consultants, people in HR, other CEOs of nonprofits, all different types of different people, people in the rail car industry, like just totally things that I wouldn't expect to come in my
that's funny
in my email inbox, I guess you could say. So it's been interesting, and it's been a lot of fun because it's forcing me to grow at the same time. I learn from them just as much as they learn from me, and vice versa. Like it's always nonstop. So It's funny. Sometimes all you have to do is ask the right questions for that person to figure out by themselves.
Yeah, and the principles don't really change, right?
Yeah.
I read your book,
Yeah.
and it was great. Driven to Succeed, I think it's called.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anybody want to get it, it's easy. Just get it off Kindle or off Amazon. That's all I did.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to
Yeah.
have. I read it.
There's an audio book too for the non-readers there. So you
Right.
can
That's right. Go for your little walks in the neighborhood.
That's
Listen
right.
to the book too. You have a great story, right? And that's a really cool thing about it. But I think a lot of people have really good stories, but I think it takes a lot of courage to tell a story.
Yeah, because
That's sort of the difference. I think
a lot of people haven't healed yet, and so some of them aren't really ready to tell a story. I always tell I this is another thing I tell people that I work with. If you have a story that's something that you've gone through in the past, or even right now, maybe you're going through one of the hardest times in your life, you feel it's a low point. The bigger that obstacle you're going through, the bigger the problem. I always tell people those are for people who are meant for something massive with their life, meant for big things to come. So with that temporary defeat that you feel, there is a teaching point in there.
Yeah.
And only for you have to hang in there to find out what that's trying to teach you. And if you find that place, you find that teaching, whatever comes next, you're able to apply. You see, I was always told that, and I'm sure you've heard this in a different way, Creator doesn't give you what you're not ready for. And
right.
So
yeah,
you are given things, you're given a path where it's been laid out for you already. All you got to do is hang in there and understand what these teachings are. A lot of people, they go into things, or they go through life with this like pity party mentality. Like it's why me, right? And you have to change that to, what am I meant to learn from this?
Yeah.
What is this trying to teach me? There's something here. There's always something there. And the more you think that way, the further off you're going to be in your life. That one little shift.
Yeah. I've been reading a lot of mythology, psychology, and religion.
Yeah.
Lately, that's my little journey I've been on the last few years, and reading books about that kind of stuff too. And it's funny, the pattern is there everywhere. The pattern is universal. It's about it's not so much why me. It's like, why not me is the better question, because it happens to everybody to some degree. Like there's that trouble that happens to people, and people get into kind of things, and life is full of suffering, and your job is to actually deal with it, come out of it, and by God's will, you learn something from it, essentially, right? So like, I went to my high school, I went to Notre Dame College for high school, and that was a tough place for me. I wasn't very I played hockey there, but I wasn't really a hockey player. But their motto was in Latin, "Lucter et emergo," which means struggle and emerge. And they said, like,
nice.
Revel in the struggle, because then you come out of it. And Perry Murray, the old founder of the school, he always said that adversity. We're Notre Dame hounds, so he said the adversity is a bone for hounds to chew on. That's what he called it. Just take that and just eat the marrow and then get something out of it. But you see this pattern over and over and over and over again. And he saw that with your life story too.
Yes.
And he had a tough life. Arguably other people have had tougher lives, but I don't think mine was as tough as yours.
There's a lot of I meet a lot of people with really good stories. It's just they beat themselves up so much that they don't want to tell them, and I always tell people, tell your stories. Your story has power. Your story has the power to change it and inspire other people.
Yeah.
Like I said, Rob, a lot of people are scared to do that because they haven't healed yet. Right? They need to heal that wound before they're comfortable sharing. And some of these wounds are pretty deep. And so it's easy for me to say that because some of those things I haven't gone through. We both haven't gone through. We can't speak for their story. So as outside people looking in, whatever culture we're coming from, we can't judge what people go through because those people have gone through different things. Every different background has. And so I come from a place where I try not to judge people, although it's very difficult in business. When you take business into things, you kind of have no choice but to try judge things based on how they're perceived.
Yeah.
Because in business, it's okay. you're on timelines. You have no choice but to make decisions really quickly. And so that judgment can come easily. So when you get into business, you're kind of living in two worlds. You're kind of living in your personal world and then also business world. And you have to try mix your value, keep your values the same. It's
Mhm.
challenging.
Yeah, and it's not personal either. That's the other part of the
Exactly.
business thing too.
Yeah,
And sometimes
exactly.
that's you have to understand that like maybe it's not fair, but it doesn't
Yeah.
mean everyone's doing it maliciously or trying to attack you over this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But if you're not ready to take on your challenge that you have at time, you're not properly prepared, you haven't assessed your risk, that
Yeah.
is gonna it's gonna come back and bite you. And
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
in compassion in that sense, it comes from making sure that you understand
Yeah.
these challenges that are ahead of you, right? It's
Yeah.
not compassionate to help somebody else and say, well, you'll do better because because you're a good guy. And
Yeah.
being a good guy has nothing to do with it.
Right. Right. Right.
It's good to be a good guy, but in terms of business, like, and it's good to have a moral business, but you still have to,
Yeah. Yeah.
pay those bills, keep those costs
Hmm.
down.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
was,
One thing I
um,
like, one thing I liked about your story, because you talked about your background. I don't want to get into that too much because
sure.
hey,
Yeah.
people out there, you should read this book. And
Mhm.
secondly, though, like you grew up in on Reserve near
Yeah.
Cut Knife,
Yeah.
Sweetgrass, which is kind of cool
Mhm.
because I used to drive through there so I'm from Loose Land.
Oh yeah.
Drive
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
to Table Mountain, go through
Yeah.
Reserve, and then
Yeah.
or Addens Lake in the summertime. Well,
Yeah. Is that where you grew up, Loose Land?
yeah, that's where I grew up.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I play hockey and Cut Knife a bit here,
Yeah.
a little bit.
Nice. Nice.
More Wilkie Unity was kind of the
Yeah.
northern side
Yeah.
of us, so we're kind of
Nice.
overlapping right there.
Nice.
But also though, like it's in that was kind of a tough ride. You went there, but he also, well, first of all, like I like the story about how you were a Cut Knife, and
Hmm.
you told the story a few times about how you went to the school, right?
Yeah.
Full of farmers and stuff like that. You're bussed in from the reserve,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're like, how do I fit in? And
Yes.
you didn't get, at least the way you told it, you didn't get belligerent or anything else. It's like, what's with me? What can I change about myself? And not like changing your character, but like your approach to people. How can
Yeah.
I connect with these people?
Yeah.
And it takes courage to do that. It takes a little bit of humility
Yeah.
to look inside yourself. And you did it as a kid, which
Yeah.
is even cooler.
Yeah.
And
It
and,
was,
and what you say to the kids again? Like,
so when I got off the bus, the immediate
yeah,
thought was, holy crap, I'm different. Right? I'm like, I'm really
right,
different.
yeah,
I can't talk the same way that I talk back home in my reserve.
yeah,
I have an accent. My
right,
skin's a little different. Um, they talk about different things than me. And
yeah,
so I went through a little, I guess, a mini culture shock that first couple days of, so I reverted back to how I was raised was when you're around a ceremony or when you're around elders, you listen,
right,
you don't speak, you
yeah,
don't speak a lot. And so I reverted back to that autopilot mode, I guess you could call it, where I
okay,
just listen. I listen
sure,
the whole time. I was just observing. So I'd observe at recess, at during breaks, during school. I'd just be watching and listening. And so I observed what they talked about and talked a lot about farming. These kids, a lot about the stuff they were working at, in
yeah,
their shops and whatnot, their crops, their cattle, all that type of stuff. And so I'm like, huh,
yeah,
interesting. And so I took it upon myself to try find a commonality. I wasn't being successful at making friends, so I had to try. When you're a kid, even as adults, but especially when you're a kid, you want to be accepted, you want to feel wanted, you want to feel part of something.
right,
And the way I could find that was I was a kid, I liked to play sports, they like to play sports. So
mm-hmm.
at recess, I took
Yeah,
it upon myself to go up to these kids and ask them, um, about the weather, how
yeah.
their crops were doing. This is the stuff they talked about. I was
I don't know.
studying for several days before this conversation.
Yeah,
So, and there's kids are looking at me like, wow, this guy understands what we're talking about. And so that initial push from my end, combined with a love of soccer, and combined with a love of sports,
yeah,
they were playing sports. I
yeah,
fit in, and they accepted me, and I was
yeah,
able to make friends that way.
right,
A lot of people from my background, they a lot unfortunately can't really share those type of stories.
yeah,
That the reason I think that happened um, came from watching my mom's ability to do that in the mainstream, whether it be going to North Balford, whether
Okay.
it be shopping for groceries. She had this ability to, she still has this ability to um, make friends anywhere
Right.
by showing her genuine character. And I think that's where it came from. I just used to watch my mom in the grocery store. She'd spark up a chat with someone, or she'd say a goofy comment, and all of a sudden she'd be chatting for the next 5-10 minutes with the lady beside us.
Yeah.
And I remember as a kid thinking, "Oh my gosh, mom, that's enough. I just want to go into the car. I just want to go home." Right.
Yeah.
So watching that, I think it just it made it easier for me to do that. And so, I had a role model, I guess you could say, that showed me unintentionally how to do that. And
Yeah. And
unfortunately, a lot of my people, they don't have that. And so,
right.
in a way, I was lucky, that yes, I came from a disadvantaged background, but I had one solid character in my life, my mom, that I could always feel comfortable with, that I
Yeah.
always felt loved from. Um, yes, I didn't have my dad in my life a lot.
Mhm.
Yes, I craved his attention. But that also now, 20 some years later, I know why it happened. Like, look at the person it forced me to become.
Yeah.
It forced me to become a leader for my people. It forced me to become a better dad, husband to my wife.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I can't say I'd be the same person if I had that privileged lifestyle of having both parents there all the time. Having my I don't know what would happen, but
Well,
everything has
you could have chosen a different path too, right?
yeah,
So,
exactly. I
but
could
it's
have been
about
completely exactly. Yeah,
recognizing the choices that you had, I suppose,
exactly.
right? That,
Yeah,
if I don't do this, then this is who I
yeah,
become. And if I
that's
do
right.
this, then maybe,
Yeah.
maybe it might be better off for me. You don't even know either,
Well,
right?
Rob, the stats are there. We know how many of my people are incarcerated. We know how many people are getting in trouble. We know, and
Yeah.
this is the lack of a stable structure at home.
Yeah.
If you look at a lot of these people's homes that are getting into this becoming statistics, we'll say,
Yeah. Sure.
look at their foundation. There is none. There's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
So
There's
me saying that I had one person, if it wasn't for that one person, I don't know where I'd be, Brad. I honestly don't know.
but you did. And
Yeah,
it's not just her though, too, because you
yeah,
identified other mentors
yeah,
in your
yeah,
life and you
yeah,
highlighted them. That's kind of cool.
yeah,
Like your buddy
absolutely.
Johan and his dad Johan,
That's right.
right?
Yeah, and
Johan
I think
Junior and Senior, right? And you looked at
yeah,
the way he acted, especially the dad, and
exactly.
you're paying attention to that guy,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
he kind of took you in, and
yeah,
that's I was kind of thinking about this too, because again, like, and you mentioned a few times, like, you were a victim of racism, sometimes more
yeah.
overt, sometimes a little more subtle.
Mm-hmm.
But then also there's a lot of people that were willing to help you too.
Yeah, there
So
was. Yeah,
and
yeah,
there's that it shows a really that's kind of the way the world is. Like, man, there's some people just want to tear you
yeah,
down for
yeah.
whatever reason, and then but there are people there
That's
to
right.
give you good
I think
examples
for
and give you some
anyone who's
support.
watching this and they want to know about the story behind Johan and his family, um, me and Johan, the kid, became best friends in elementary, grade 5. We became really good friends. I was about 10 years old at that time. Him and his family paid for my soccer fees. They drove me to games and practices, dropped me off in Sweetgrass out of their way. I was at his house at Attons Lake every weekend, and got a chance to know his family, his dad, and his work ethic. His dad became my role model. He's just a driven guy. That's why I wear this word all the time, driven. That's just my motto. That's my own personal motto.
And
And
ask you
so
about
everything I
that.
decide to do with my life, it's like it has that, like I have to have this drive to do something in order to be effective in this world. So
Yeah.
it created this feeling, I guess you could say, within myself that whatever I decide to do with my life, I'm going to do it like that. I want to be driven to achieve whatever it is that I decide to do, whether it be in sports, business, whatever that might be, speaking, whatever.
Yeah.
And so when 2 years after we met and they were giving us they were driving me to games and practices and so on, Johan and his mom and dad um, made a decision to give my mom a vehicle that they're not taking to
Right.
Saskatoon.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people, when I tell the story, they assume, yeah, they gave it to Kendal. They gave it because Kendal was playing sports. No, they gave it because the person who raised Kendal my mother, they saw something in her just as much as they saw something as that kid that she was raising.
Right.
It was my mother. You see, if my mother was living a very unhealthy lifestyle and
Right.
was living negatively, they
Right.
would not have done that for us. I can tell you that.
Mhm.
I just know. Because she was doing everything she could, she was sacrificing. She was, we're living in a 2-bedroom house,
Mhm.
5 of us. I slept in one room. I was a spoiled kid. My 3 sisters shared a room. My
Right.
mom slept on the couch. That was
Yeah.
all the way till I graduated high school.
Crazy.
And so they saw that. They saw we never had a vehicle. They saw we were living on welfare. They saw that my mom couldn't get a job anywhere in the reserve. There was no jobs like that back there. Even if she can get a job in the city, how is she going to get there
Yeah.
when so many people don't have vehicles at this time? So they saw a cycle of poverty happening.
Mhm.
They witnessed it. They witnessed us living welfare check to welfare check,
Yeah.
pawning my belongings,
Right.
collecting
Yeah.
cans and bottles, right? So they saw all that stuff. And so they saw a lady who was single parenting her kids, doing everything she could, abstaining from drugs and alcohol, abstaining from any other outside relationships to focus on her 4 children.
Right. Yeah. That's important too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that was, to me, is the I hope the message a lot of people see is that, your sacrifice for the people that you raise or you lead in an organization. People notice that.
Mhm.
Outside faces will notice that. And you might get opportunities that can help you get to where you want quicker. You
Yeah.
never know what can happen. And so I took it very serious. I still remember all that feeling to even like raising my own children. I try to give them as many opportunities as I can, try to put them in sports. Even if they don't like it, at least they can say they tried it.
That's right.
Right. So,
Yeah. Keanu, like, you know what? Quits
yeah.
tomorrow. He knows how to skate.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
can play
Exactly.
pickup game hockey the rest of his life, like,
Exactly. And I can't even say I can do that, right? Because that was
yeah.
a craving I had, was playing that sport.
Yeah.
So, I'm using
Yeah.
all these experiences, and I hope everyone else is too, like whatever you go
Yeah.
through your life,
But you're also holding
make
yourself
it
to
better for your
account.
family.
But you're
Yeah.
holding yourself to account too. And
Yeah.
because later on you went to university, you kind of talked about, you're having a little bit too much fun, you're at,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I was there too, man.
Yeah.
Like, I know
Yeah.
exactly what it was. But
Yeah.
then you held yourself to check, right? And it's like, man, like, I'm not behaving the way I want to do. And then, I'm not sure, you maybe started changing your life better, and you
Yeah.
met Rachel,
Yep.
or did you meet her and try to change your life, or did they coincide at the same time?
We Rachel is younger than me, right? So she's about 3
Yeah.
years younger than me. I already had a few years college under my belt, and so when we met, it was her first year of university, and
Okay.
so we had noticed each other in university. We were both in education, so a lot of people don't
Okay.
realize I'm a teacher. That's my background.
Well, yeah.
I should probably have a degree hanging out, but I don't even put it up. I don't know why, but that's my background. Is I
Yeah.
actually finished education to become a teacher, and so when I was midway through that was when Rachel was starting, and so we would always notice each other during breaks and
Oh,
whatnot
okay.
in campus, and
Cool.
so
Right on.
and so eventually we started dating, and I was going through a really tough time in my life. Like I created my own havoc, we'll say, Rob. I created my own havoc, and
Right. That's a good word. Yeah.
I think because I've grown through this and I've worked through this part of my life with counseling, through coaching, all that type of stuff. I can see why it happened, but I can also see that it's because of my poor decisions that taught me a lesson.
Yeah.
And so for those of you who are watching this or listening to this, I got myself in a situation right when I met Rachel that I might have a child with a different woman.
Right.
And so 9 months later, I take this child under my wing. Another 10 months later, I find out the son's not mine.
Yeah.
And so it was a rough time.
Crazy.
Because Rachel was right beside me the whole time, and she's watching all this stuff happen, and being manipulated from that. It was rough, Rob. And a lot of people, they don't know that side of my story, and so I was being taught a lesson for a reason. And if I didn't smarten up there, I don't know if life would have been able to evolve towards is today, you know?
You
So,
don't know.
so
Yeah.
I took it very seriously after that. And I said, okay, there's a teaching point here. This is years later. There's a teaching point there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get a lot of people that I work with that happen to be male. And, you know, one of the things I tell them, if you're going to get married, you better commit to that person, because a stable relationship, a stable marriage equals a prosperous company, a prosperous career for yourself. If you can't focus at home, you're going to be worried at work. If your foundation is shattered at home and you can't fix things for your family, your work life is going to suffer. Your business is going to suffer.
Yeah.
So I take it very seriously that, you know, I went through all that stuff for a reason. And I feel one of those parts is I need to mentor young men. I need to mentor people to how to, you know, I'm not perfect still. I'm still trying to, you know, to be a good dad, a good husband.
Sure.
But it's a decision you have to make. You have to decide that this is the person you're going to be with. This is the person you're going to put all your energy into. You're willing to do everything you can to grow with that person.
Yeah.
Once you grow with that person you decide to be with the rest of your life, everything else will flow with that.
You know, there's a guy named James Altucher. I follow him, his podcast. I don't know if you hear him, his business podcast. He's an entrepreneur.
Is he an investor?
Well, he's in New York or somewhere else.
Okay. Okay.
But Altucher, he's funny. He's rich and he's made millions, lost millions, made millions. One of those guys. He always has ideas.
Afro? I'm trying to remember.
He has a huge afro. Yeah. He's from New York.
He's the Bitcoin guy. Hey, I think
Bitcoin. He has his podcast is hilarious. He's just all over the ideas guy, right? He just goes and he has fun, makes money. But on a recent one there, he was talking to a guy. He was asked, like, what's the most important thing you do for starting a business? He's like, stable marriage, good relationship with the kids. Because really, he's like, no, because he's on a second wife. His first wife's like, it was awful. The relationship that he had, it was distracting. He couldn't focus on it. Now he's got a good relationship. His kids are a little bit older, has a good relationship with them. It's not a distraction. Now he can focus on his business. Take care of that. That's number one. Yeah. Right. And then you can actually do everything else. Everything else comes a lot easier that way. And I was like, that's such a good insight. And the other guy's like, really? And the other guy, I don't think he's married. You know what I know. Yeah. Like that's, man, if you have a good, solid relationship, it's everything.
And it comes down to communicating not just with your partner, but with yourself and holding yourself accountable. Yeah. So a lot of people are scared to do that. They're scared to look within. And if you can't do that, you're limited. You can only go so far.
Yeah. And these messages you have there, like, again, there's nothing groundbreaking that you're talking about here too, but we have to keep getting reminded
simple stuff
over and over again, right?
Yeah, exactly. And as human beings, we like to make things complicated in every facet of our life. That's just how it is.
I know.
Like we were just talking about this at the beginning of this podcast, right? We were talking about, you know, I was trying to get so hardcore with my virtual setup. And then I went back and I sold all that stuff. I'm like, I don't have time for that. I just want to plug and play. Let's go. Yeah. Right? Like, keep it simple. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah. And then, okay, so you founded, first you founded, what is it, Moose Knuckle? Moose Meat. I'm so sorry. It was Moose Meat, but one of your buddies was Moose Knuckle. I saw that. I was like, oh, that's terrible. Anyways, you found Moose Meat. It was a t-shirt. But he found a t-shirt company.
He had this volleyball team. And my buddy's name, the one that he's the one that founded the name. His name was Moose Knuckle on the back of his jersey.
Oh God, that's just awful.
My other buddy was Moose Ears, Moose Legs, and so on. So
yeah.
Oh, good times. Yeah. So that was the first company, was selling Moose Meat shirts, Moose Meat apparel.
You thought it'd be kind of fun just to sell shirts or something like that, eh? Maybe make a few bucks, or
because we had a popular volleyball team. And so people started asking about shirts, and I was like, here's an idea. Let's try it out. So I started selling the shirts and hoodies, and it did pretty good. Like we were selling a lot of stuff at volleyball tournaments and stuff. So 2010, I started that company. And during that time, I was going through that rough phase in my life. So it was a tough go at that time, we'll say, Rob. It was tough. It was challenging because I was still going through stuff.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 8 months, almost a year later, after starting that brand, I ran into a trademarking issue, and so I couldn't
Oh,
trademark
right,
per se.
right.
And so it forced me to kind of give up
Yeah,
that path. And so just like that, I had to close the business down, and I was like, felt like a failure because by that time
yeah.
we were getting national press interested in this stuff, and so they just finished a piece on us in the Globe and Mail. Next week, I'm shut down. So
Yeah,
I felt like a failure, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, like
yeah,
this.
because people are watching you, and then
Yeah.
this
So
happens, right?
it was pretty rough that time on me, but then I started Neechie Gear right after that, and
Yeah,
so
Neechie Gear,
and
yeah.
then Keanu was born. Like that day, I submitted my business plan to a business competition, and
Hmm.
I started competing with Neechie Gear, and then it didn't take off right away, but we won some business competitions, and I had to learn how to do business pitches like on Dragon's Den, that kind of style.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that was intimidating because at that time I was not a speaker. I did not do any public presentations. And so
right.
when I first started speaking, I was just terrified. Uh, During that time, for the next 8 months was a struggle because now me and Rachel are new parents. We don't have guaranteed income coming in. None of us has a salary.
Right.
So I'm taking on odd jobs
Yeah.
during this time. Rachel's a full-time student, so we're living off student loan. Um, it was rough. We ended up
Totally.
in down. We were applying for welfare downtown. Um,
Ah,
yeah, it was rough, and so it that was like my lowest moment in business at that time.
okay.
Yeah, I went
Yeah.
through many low moments, and so that at that time, me and Rachel uh, we weren't as effective communicating as we are today. But at that time, that was probably one of our most hardcore conversations we had to had
Yeah. I bet.
at that time. And so I told her, I said, I have this business and I feel it can be successful if I give it everything I have. I said, I don't know how I'm going to pay for diapers, formula, rent, but I need your support. Right. And so
Crazy.
she
Yeah.
supported me. And next month, I took everything out of the apartment, got an office on 20th Street to 220,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
started selling out of there. And I had a little wireless debit machine, and I went to events, went to all these different powwows and so on. And then we got a big break. We got a kiosk in the center mall. We won a competition there, and we were there for 3 months.
Right.
Sold
Yeah.
a bunch of stuff. I flipped our profit back into the business, invested that into a store right beside it. That was a big risk because I had no idea what I was going to do. Signed a lease, and I was in
Yeah.
there a month later. Made a lot of sales from there. Totally different business. Now I'm doing the retail business, like hardcore merchandising, making sure everything fits, all that type of stuff, hiring
Yeah.
people. And I'm like, holy, is this all a big rush, right? Then
Yeah.
I get extra crazy. I start doing pop-up shops at the same time. And I start popping up in Prince Albert. Now I have two different stores running. And I'm like,
Two
holy
different
shoot.
cities.
Yeah,
Holy
two different
cow.
cities. So I'm in Prince Albert at the same time during Christmas. And we're doing really well. The sales
Right.
are just flying, right? And I'm back and forth every day, like just boom, boom, boom. And so, and then we opened up an online store. So now we have a different store that's going, and it was just
Right.
nonstop. Next after that Christmas, I opened up. I did a full-time store in Prince Albert, and I was doing that. Then I opened up eventually. I started to wholesale to different retailers. So now we're selling our brand to other stores.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
good.
I opened up one in Regina, and then right, I would say 2015, I made a decision that this was getting too crazy because my
Right.
kids were little babies, right? Um, I didn't want to live like that, being gone all the time, every day, and eating crappy every day, and
Yeah.
living off of coffee,
Totally.
being in
Yeah.
my van because I used to have this old school van I was driving with no seats in the back. It was my cargo van. And so I'd be using that to drop off my stuff. And I was doing everything, shipping, receiving,
Yeah.
manager. I was running the stores. I was doing payroll. I was doing everything. Right. So
Crazy.
it was very stressful. And so I made a decision. I need to simplify things here. People were asking me to speak. I was like, I want to do this. This is actually a lot of fun. I like going to places.
Mm-hmm.
I could still sell my stuff, but I probably have to give up some of my Neechie Gear retail outlet stuff.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
started to peel back on that. And so I went back to Saskatoon. We did stuff in Saskatoon, and we eventually moved to a headquarters on Circle Drive. And then
Yeah, I
about a
saw
year and a
that.
half
Yeah.
later, a year and a half late, a year and a half ago, I closed that location down and I focused solely on wholesale and online.
And online. Yeah.
So now all of my stuff is done online or to other retailers. And we do custom orders at the same time for bigger corporations. We've done stuff for Cameco in the past.
Oh, really?
Workplace.
Okay.
Yeah, in 2015, I think we did some stuff with Cameco. I actually did a tour with Cameco in the north.
Up north, the northern
I
tour.
did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that
I
was
used
a
to
lot of
do
fun.
those. It is a
Yeah,
lot of
so
fun. Yeah.
it was a lot of fun. So we did a lot of that stuff. Different corporations. We still do that. All that's
Okay.
changed is I don't sell through my own stores anymore because I now gave myself time to speak, do virtual coaching, do virtual training, write my book Driven to Succeed, do my Audible programs now on Audible.
Right.
I'm doing the stuff I always wanted to do now. And at the same time, now that COVID's here, I'm here almost every day, right?
Yeah.
So I'm here with my kids now, right? I'm dropping them off. I'm picking them up from school. Like it's like I'm on full on dad entrepreneur mode now. So it's like, it's funny how you have to go through things to really make things work if you want it to, but you have to go through those like pain points to really appreciate what's next. And
yeah,
I could say I've gone through a lot of those. So yeah.
So you're still handling Neechie Gear then. So do you have any partners at all? Or is it just you?
I did for a while.
Yeah.
And then I bought them all out and
okay.
I still own the business. So
you're a brand guy though, right? Like you're big on the, like you got to protect that brand and it means something.
Exactly. So at that time I was almost going to sell Neechie Gear, all of it.
Yeah.
Because I was so hungry to get out and speak more, to train, to do coaching. So it just didn't work out. It wasn't meant to be at that time. So I brought everything back to me.
Okay.
I still control everything of that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So then that means you have actually multiple sources of income right now.
That's right.
As much as it is. So
that's right.
So when speaking fees collapse, like at the beginning in spring this year, you're able to retain some income and then pivot over to more. You must have been doing some coaching and you say did some consulting work, but now you can kind of
there's speaking,
focus on that part of it now.
Speaking, coaching, consulting. There's book sales that we have. So we have our books in a lot of bookstores still. And we have our books online, obviously, through Kindle and through Amazon, Audible. We have our Neechie Gear, which is always running 24/7. So it's all automated, that business.
Passive income.
Yeah. So it's all created a lifestyle friendly, I guess you could say. Where
have you been able to get into any other businesses or people offer you to be partners with, like, say, internet business or whatever?
Yeah, tons. And I just, at this time, I don't want it. Every time you start a business or you invest, you have to give up your own time. That's just the way it is.
Right.
So at this time, I don't have any interest in building any other businesses right now, just because I'd rather coach them.
Yeah.
I'd rather coach those people that are going to run them. And so at this time, maybe there is an opportunity in the future. Maybe I do coach or mentor for some kind of shares. I don't know, but maybe there's always opportunities for that. At this time, I haven't been approached with any of those yet. Effective one. It's more so, Kendall, what's your fee? What's your coaching services? Okay, I want to hire you. Let's do it. So then I work with them for so many weeks and then they're off to the races.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah. I was just wondering about that, but you're right. Cause your business is a very jealous partner and, better not be cheating on her. So like really, but like, that's all what I've been learning anyways, right? You got to focus on it. You got to give it your all. If you're not going to give it your all, you might as well sell it. Again, that's what Altucher talks about. Like once he's done with something, it's gone.
Yeah.
Make my money, it's gone. If it's not making money, it's gone. Like that's his whole mindset. But he's one of those serial, builders of companies.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
But it's funny though. Like people I've been talking to through this kind of avenue, a lot of them are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I was doing that. Then all of a sudden I realized, I mean, I'm talking to a lot of entrepreneurs. So single business owners or whatever they are in their own ways. And it's it fascinates me. It's a very fascinating kind of thing. So I have a big respect for people who are willing to risk it all.
Exactly.
But you're not risking it all. Like you are, but it's calculated risk though, right? Like you're not going like free willing. Like you are running numbers and stuff.
Yeah.
So like you're going in blind, right?
It depends on where you're at in your life, right? In the beginning, I had nothing to lose really, aside from in a material possession way. I mean, I had nothing I really owned. I didn't have I lived in an apartment, right? A 1-bedroom apartment. We had minimal things that we owned. And so I didn't have hardcore risk, if you will. It's tougher to be a successful entrepreneur when years you've been collecting, you know, when a paycheck's coming in, you know how much you're going to get. Once that creates comfort for people. When it creates comfort for you, you do not want to lose your comfort zone. Entrepreneurship is always uncomfortable. You don't know what's going to happen. COVID can come and flip you upside down and you have to adapt. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So that's the difference is, are you going to adapt and go after it and keep trying to make things happen and keep that hunger lit? Or do you want to go, you know, get that paycheck and be comfortable? Because comfortable does not lead to massive, you know, as people would call it, material wealth, if you would call it.
Or independence.
Or independence.
People,
even.
it's not so much wealth for most people. They just want to do what they want to do.
It's that time. Yeah, exactly. So you're pretty much buying time, if you want to call it that. Time to be alone, time to do what things you want, that type of stuff. So it's in terms of a risk, you have to give up comfort to go after something big. That's the way I see it.
Jeez, I'm quite comfortable, so I don't know.
Everyone's different. It's everyone has their own path, right? That's the thing. So, you know, even if you are comfortable, Rob, or anyone else who's watching, you can still invest in stuff, right? You can still invest in different things.
Well, again, with what I'm doing here, I'm talking to 3 or 4 people a month.
Yeah.
Like, nice conversation. This is a nice long conversation. It's pretty cool. And I'm learning stuff from, and I realize a few of these things in that, you know, I'm writing a book is what I'm writing.
Nice.
I'm collecting information here. So I just started putting these things on YouTube. And then one thing I've learned by listening to other people, is get a lot of information. If you have a nice conversation with somebody, do all the clips.
Yeah.
If you have a little clip, like a 5 to 15 minute clip, take that. Also, you have extra content, and then all that information within those clips too. That could be like that's a chapter of a book or an anecdote.
Absolutely, yeah,
that's like right. So you can actually, in this 1 hour or whatever we're going to use talking to you, I'm going to gather lots of information, and maybe you want to take this as well too. I'll give you the video after if you want to have it. It's up to you. And
share me the link whenever you post it.
I'll put it onto Google Drive, and you can grab it whenever you want. But it's really that's what I'm doing here, and it's trying to make myself more comfortable because COVID affected me. I was really affected by the whole thing. It was very difficult. Time. I was going through a lot of stuff in my life, and it was this is my way to get out. And know what I'm good at? I'm good at talking to people. That's what I'm
totally, absolutely, yeah.
So why don't I just talk to people and see what happens?
It's definitely a test of people's mental health. This thing, tons of stuff. I went through a lot of stuff too, Rob. I'm sure a lot of people that are watching can agree with that. It's a very challenging thing for a lot of us, and it forces you to go in here. All right, that was the hard part, even for myself, going through that, and combined with when you lose a lot of business. And in my scenario, that's 6-figure business, right? Overnight, you lose 6-figure business.
Yeah,
that's hard.
Yes.
Right? That's like, think about that. There's people that lose millions overnight
and he did nothing wrong. That's the thing.
Nothing
it's not like you screwed up or something like that. You were just doing your thing.
Yeah.
And then it was taken away from you, and you're like, it's not like there was like, and again, it wasn't like a regional or provincial thing too. Well, you can't speak in Saskatchewan anymore. No, you have to meet everywhere.
Exactly.
I can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
The whole world. So
exactly.
Jesus, man, that's tough.
It was. Yeah, it's just the way it happens, and sometimes we have no choice but to adapt. We have no choice but to change things.
So I'm gonna add just one more question for you, I guess. Oh, my wife wanted me to know. She says hello. So as she wants to know, like, I want to know. All right, you still see yourself as a role model though for Indigenous kids, and do you feel some sort of responsibility to for First Nations, Métis kids, or Northerners, or kids from tough backgrounds?
I want to start off, Robert, by saying one thing that might offend some, and I want to say that in this province, and mostly in this country, it is more difficult for First Nations people. And the reason I say that, there's a lot of things that are still in systems that discriminate against me, that
Okay.
discriminate against my reserve to try to get ahead, to help people like myself, their membership, to succeed. So I gave you an example of my story in that book of how we were dependent on a cycle, and it creates
Yeah.
a mindset. And so when I grew up and I started to have some success, and even to this day, I started to realize, like, man, there was something that hit me through COVID. And it was this thought of, I'm one of those people that I'm grateful for the things that I've accomplished. I'm grateful for everything that's happened. I have this platform to affect change to my people, to inspire them. Neechie Gear created a lot of businesses that are First Nations owned to this day.
Yeah.
It inspired a movement of entrepreneurs. There was no one I could relate to when I first started at 22 years old, my Neechie Gear business. I had no other one that I could say there's a First Nation business there. It was rare.
Right.
Now there's like lots. It's awesome. And so as I look at and I see these effects of people that are change makers coming from my background, athletes, artists, business owners, and so on, and they have the ripple effect, there's a huge responsibility that's tied to that the mainstream puts on that person. And even if they don't want it, it's there. So this is why I say it's different for First Nations people. No matter how hard I try, Rob, I cannot escape that zone that the mainstream will put on my background, because I always have to be a role model now. I always have to go back and help now.
Yeah.
The neighbor next door will never have to worry about that. That's the difference. So as taking this from a First Nations person who's had success, I take it very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do those negative things that can portray me as an unhealthy role model.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be a good husband. I try to be a good dad. I try to be a good mentor. As I evolve my career, I'm always going to be held to that standard of how people view me as.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess as a close, Rob, is that's why it's more difficult for people like me. I have no choice but to be that guy. Even if I didn't want to be that guy,
yeah,
that would always be put on me. And that's the difference in this country, is that once you get there, you are now held to a different standard.
Right. Yeah, it's a very, very interesting perspective on that. Wow.
Yeah. So
there you go.
Yeah,
that was a good question.
yeah. That's a long answer, but that's the best way I can put it.
Well, I'm not gonna do much more than that there. I think that's a good ending to our conversation, Kendal. So
awesome.
So people, you can go to your website if anybody interested in, say, coaching, speaking opportunities.
Yeah, KendalNetmaker.com. Check it out. Speaking, coaching, consulting. You want to buy some books? There's links on there too.
Get us
all
a
that
book,
type of
people.
stuff.
It's a good book. I enjoyed it. It's a good story, and it's well worthwhile. So everybody check that out, and check out your YouTube channel for videos. And
absolutely.
I don't know, whatever. So I'm gonna close it off here, and
all right,
we'll talk. Just let me finish off the recording here.
And sounds good.